The scissors flashed silver in the fluorescent hallway lights as they sliced through Faith Mackenzie's golden ponytail in one brutal cut. 20 inches of hair fell to the linoleum floor like spun silk, while 300 students watched in shocked silence. The quiet sophomore who always sat alone at lunch didn't scream, didn't cry, didn't even flinch, but the way her ice-blue eyes turned to face Deacon Crawford made the temperature in Westfield High's main corridor drop 10 degrees. What nobody knew was that the shy girl they'd ignored for 2 years had spent every morning since age 6 in her grandfather's dojo, and they were about to witness something that would change their school forever. Before we dive into Faith's incredible story, if these tales of courage and standing up to bullies inspire you the way they inspire me to write them, please hit that like button. It really helps more people discover these stories who might need to hear them. And if you've ever faced a situation like Faith's, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Your experiences matter, and sharing them helps build our community of support. Also, if you want to help me keep creating these stories that celebrate everyday heroes and inspire others to find their strength, consider hitting the thanks button below this video. Every contribution, no matter how small, helps me dedicate more time to researching and crafting these narratives that hopefully make a difference in someone's day. Thank you so much for being here now. Let's see how Faith turns the tables on her tormentors. There, Deacon Crawford announced, holding up the severed ponytail like a trophy. His Letterman jacket stretched across broad shoulders as he turned to his crew, Bryce Hawkins and Trent Morrison, who were filming everything on their phones. Now maybe you'll stop thinking you're too good for us. Faith Mackenzie stood perfectly still in the center of the hallway. Her newly shorn hair barely touched her shoulders, jagged and uneven where the scissors had cut. Students pressed against lockers, some recording, others too stunned to move. The morning bell was 3 minutes away, but nobody cared about getting to first period anymore. Nothing to say? Deacon stepped closer, still waving the ponytail. Come on, Ice Princess. We've been trying to get your attention all semester. You walk around here like you're better than everyone, never talking to anybody, never give it back. Faith's voice was quiet, controlled, but it carried through the hallway like a blade. Deacon laughed, the sound echoing off metal lockers. Or what? You gonna cry to Principal Morrison? Oh, wait. He smirked at Trent. That's your uncle? Right. Guess we know how this plays out. Last chance, Faith said, shifting her weight almost imperceptibly. Give me my hair back. Make me, Deacon taunted, holding the ponytail higher. The hallway held its breath. Madison Torres, pressed against her locker 3 feet away, would later swear she saw Faith's entire demeanor change in that split second like watching a house cat transform into a mountain lion. Faith moved. Her right leg swept up in a perfect arc. The spinning heel kick so fast, most students only saw the aftermath. Deacon's phone went flying, shattering against the wall. He stumbled backward, more from shock than impact, the ponytail falling from his grip. What the? Bryce started forward, but Faith had already scooped up her severed hair and stepped back into a defensive stance that made him freeze. Touch me again, she said, voice steady as granite, and I'll show you what else my grandfather taught me. That's when the bell rang. Shrill and sudden, students scattered like startled birds. But whispers were already spreading through the crowd. The quiet girl had moves. The Ice Princess could fight. Deacon Crawford had finally messed with the wrong person. This isn't over, Deacon snarled, rubbing his wrist where her kick had connected. You just assaulted me, in front of witnesses. My dad's on the school board. You're done. Faith tucked the severed ponytail into her backpack with careful precision. Your friend has it on video. I'm sure the administration would love to see exactly what led to me defending myself. She turned and walked toward her AP chemistry class, leaving Deacon and his crew standing in the hallway like statues. But Madison Torres saw something the boys missed: the slight tremor in Faith's hands, the way she blinked rapidly as she walked. The adrenaline was hitting now, the reality of what just happened sinking in. By second period, the video had exploded across social media. Ponytail Gate was trending locally. 3 different angles showed Deacon cutting Faith's hair without consent, then her spectacular defensive kick. Comments poured in by the hundreds. That kick, though, he had it coming. You can't just cut someone's hair. Anyone know who she is? Girl's got skills. Deacon Crawford's been terrorizing kids for years. Finally, someone stood up. Faith sat in AP Chemistry, trying to focus on molecular bonds while her butchered hair kept falling in her eyes. Harper Wells, her lab partner, kept stealing glances at her. That was incredible, Harper whispered as they measured chemicals. I mean, awful what he did, but the way you handled it. Can we just work on the lab? Faith asked quietly. Sure, but why did he target you? You never bother anyone. Faith measured hydrochloric acid with steady hands. That's exactly why. Before Harper could ask more, the classroom door opened. Vice Principal Garrett stood there, his expression unreadable. Faith Mackenzie, please come with me. The walk to the administrative offices felt like a mile. Faith knew this was coming. Deacon's father, Mitchell Crawford, practically owned half of Silver Lake. He'd donated the new football stadium, funded the computer lab. His son was untouchable, or so everyone thought. Vice Principal Garrett's office smelled like coffee and disappointment. Faith sat in the uncomfortable chair facing his desk while he scrolled through his computer, presumably watching the videos. Miss Mackenzie, he began, not meeting her eyes. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence. What about a zero-tolerance policy for assault? Faith asked. He cut my hair without consent. That's legally considered assault and battery in this state. Garrett shifted uncomfortably. Well, we need to consider all perspectives. Deacon says you've been giving him and his friends, quote, hostile looks for weeks. Perhaps this was a misguided attempt at interaction. Faith felt her grandfather's lessons echoing in her mind. Breathe, center, control. Are you seriously suggesting that cutting off my hair was flirting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm trying to understand the full situation. Deacon's family has been part of this community for... I'd like to call my guardian. Faith interrupted. Garrett's face paled slightly. That's not necessary. We're just having a conversation. A conversation where you're implying I'm somehow responsible for being assaulted. I want to call my guardian. Now. She pulled out her phone before he could object and hit speed dial. Uncle Mike, I'm in Vice Principal Garrett's office. Deacon Crawford cut my hair off in the hallway, and now they're trying to blame me for defending myself. Can you... Yes, okay. See you in 20. She hung up and looked at Garrett. My uncle's on his way. He suggested we don't discuss anything else until he arrives. Your uncle? Garrett looked nervous now. Michael Chen. You might know him. He's the district attorney. The color drained from Garrett's face entirely. The district attorney. Adopted uncle, technically. He and my grandfather were Marines together after my parents died. They both helped raise me. Faith's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. He takes assault cases very seriously, especially when they involve minors. 20 minutes later. Michael Chen walked into the office in a perfectly pressed suit, carrying a briefcase and an aura of quiet authority. He was Asian American, early 40s, with the kind of presence that made people sit up straighter. "Mr. Garrett," he said, shaking hands with professional courtesy that somehow felt like a threat. "I understand there's been an incident involving my niece, an assault, specifically." "Well, the situation is complicated," Garrett stammered. "Is it?" Michael pulled out his phone. "Because I have seen 3 separate videos that seem quite clear. A male student cut off my niece's hair without consent, which constitutes assault and battery under state law, and she used minimal force to prevent further assault. Would you like me to cite the specific statutes?" "That's not necessary." "Oh, but I think it is." Michael's smile was sharp as a blade. "See, I've been tracking complaints about Deacon Crawford for the past year. 17 different incidents reported by students. All mysteriously disappeared or were ruled misunderstandings. Would you like to explain that pattern, Mr. Garrett?" Faith watched her uncle work with the same precision she'd seen in the dojo. Every word calculated. Every pause strategic. "Now," Michael continued, "we can handle this properly through official channels, document the assault. Faith can file charges. I can have a conversation with the school board about the systematic failure to protect students from a known aggressor. Or we can ensure this is the last time Deacon Crawford terrorizes another student. Your choice." Garrett was sweating now. "What are you suggesting? Full disciplinary action against Mr. Crawford. Suspension pending expulsion hearing. Mandatory counseling. And a public apology to Faith and every other student he's harassed. Today. His father will accept it." Michael interrupted. "Or I'll personally ensure every single covered-up incident becomes public record. I believe the local news would be very interested in a story about prominent businessman's son terrorizing students while the administration looks the other way." The door burst open. Mitchell Crawford stormed in, face red with fury. "What's this about suspending my son over a harmless prank?" Michael stood, extending his hand with that same dangerous courtesy. "Mr. Crawford, I'm Michael Chen, District Attorney. Your son assaulted my niece. We're discussing appropriate consequences." "Assault," Mitchell scoffed. "He cut some hair, kids being kids." "Would you feel the same if someone held your son down and cut his hair?" Michael asked mildly. "Because I can arrange a demonstration if you need help understanding why that's assault." Mitchell's eyes narrowed. "Are you threatening my son?" "I'm educating you on the law. Your son committed assault. It's on video, multiple angles. My niece showed remarkable restraint in only using defensive force to prevent further attack. She could have done much worse." "One kick," Mitchell sneered. "Lucky shot from a little girl playing ninja." Faith spoke for the first time since the adults arrived. "Would you like to see what else this little girl can do?" Everyone turned to stare at her. She stood slowly, that same controlled grace from the hallway. "Faith," Michael warned. "No, Uncle Mike. I'm tired of this." She faced Mitchell Crawford directly. "Your son has been harassing me since September. Comments about my appearance, my dead parents, my race. I reported it twice. Nothing happened. Today, he escalated to physical assault. I defended myself with minimal force, but if you want to see what I'm actually capable of, I'm happy to demonstrate." "You're threatening me!" Mitchell stepped forward aggressively. Faith didn't move, but something in her stance made him stop. "I'm informing you that I've been training in Krav Maga, Muay Thai, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since I was 6 years old. I have junior Olympic medals in 3 different martial arts. Your son is lucky all he got was a warning tap. Touch me, and you'll discover exactly how much I held back. The office fell silent. Mitchell Crawford, man who'd intimidated the entire town for years, took an unconscious step backward. "She's lying," he said, but uncertainty colored his voice. Michael pulled out his phone, swiped to a photo. Junior Olympics, 2 years ago. Faith took gold in her division. Would you like to see the videos of her matches? They're quite impressive. Faith kept her eyes locked on Mitchell. Your son cut my hair because he thought I was weak. Quiet equals victim in his mind. But silence isn't weakness. Mr. Crawford, it's discipline. And discipline is what separates warriors from bullies. Deacon made a mistake, Mitchell said, his tone shifting to negotiation. Perhaps we can work out some kind of arrangement. Compensation for the haircut. I don't want your money, Faith said flatly. I want your son to face consequences, real ones, and I want protection for every student he's tormented. You can't prove Jasmine Rodriguez, freshman, locker 147. Faith recited from memory. Your son and his friends cornered her Monday, took her lunch money. Brooklyn Patterson, sophomore, locker 221. They've been making sexual comments about her body since school started. River Martinez, junior, locker 315. Your son shoved them down the stairs for accidentally bumping into him. Should I continue, I have 37 more names. Mitchell's face had gone from red to white. How do you? Because I watch. I listen. I document. Faith pulled out a small notebook, pages covered in neat handwriting. Every incident, every victim, every witness, dates, times, locations. I've been building this case since October, waiting for enough evidence to make it stick. Your son cutting my hair. That was the mistake I needed. Physical assault, on camera, with hundreds of witnesses. Faith, Michael said softly, pride evident in his voice. Why didn't you tell me about this? Because I wanted to handle it myself first. Give the system a chance to work. She looked at Garrett with disappointment. But the system protects predators with powerful fathers, doesn't it? This is ridiculous, Mitchell blustered, but he was backing toward the door. A teenage girl playing detective, a teenage girl who just outmaneuvered you, Michael corrected. My niece built a better case than most prosecutors. Everything documented, witnessed, verified. If this goes to court, and it will, if you fight the suspension, every single incident becomes public record. Is that what you want for your son's future? Your family's reputation? Mitchell's jaw worked furiously. What do you want? Justice, Faith said simply. Your son faces real consequences. The school implements actual anti-bullying policies with teeth. And you stop using your money to shield him from accountability. Or has, Mitchell challenged. Faith smiled for the first time, and it was terrifying. Or I post everything online, every incident, every cover-up, every time money changed hands to make problems disappear. I'm very good with social media. Mr. Crawford, by tonight. Silver Lake Bullies could be trending nationally. Is that the legacy you want? The silence stretched like a rubber band about to snap. Finally, Mitchell Crawford nodded once, sharply. Fine, Deacon will accept the suspension, but this ends here. No, Faith said firmly, this begins here. Change begins here. Your son getting consequences for the first time in his life. That's just the start. After the Crawfords left, Garrett slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. Michael turned to him with that same sharp smile. "Now then, Mr. Garrett, let's discuss the systematic failures that allowed this situation to develop. I believe the school board would be very interested in reviewing your handling of previous complaints." Faith tuned out the adults, fingering the ragged ends of her butchered hair. It would grow back. But the fear that had kept students silent, that was gone forever, cut away as surely as her ponytail. Her phone buzzed. Message after message from students she'd never spoken to. "Thank you for standing up to him. I can't believe you documented everything. You're my hero. Can you teach us self-defense?" That last one made her pause. An idea formed, growing like a seed in fertile soil. When they finally left Garrett's office, Michael put his arm around her shoulders. "You know, when your grandfather asked me to look after you, I don't think he expected this." "Are you disappointed?" Faith asked. "Disappointed I'm proud enough to burst. You gathered evidence, stayed within the law, used minimal force, and outmaneuvered one of the most powerful men in town. If you ever want to consider law school—" Faith laughed, the sound surprising her. "Maybe, but first, I think I need to start a self-defense club at school." Making yourself a bigger target. Making sure nobody else has to be a target alone. They walked through the hallways toward the exit. Classes were in session, but Faith could see faces pressed against door windows. Students sneaking peeks at the girl who'd brought down Deacon Crawford. "Your parents would be proud," Michael said softly. "Using your strength to protect others. That's what they always believed in." Faith touched her shorn hair again. "Grandpa always says the best warriors are the ones who prevent fights, not win them." Wise man, though that spinning kick was pretty impressive. "That was nothing," Faith said. "You should see what I can do when I'm actually trying." As they reached the parking lot, a crowd of students had gathered despite being supposed to be in class. Madison Torres, Harper Wells, River Martinez, Jasmine Rodriguez, all the names from Faith's notebook, all the victims who'd suffered in silence. "Faith," Jasmine called out, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for remembering us." "You're not invisible," Faith told them all. "You never were. They just wanted you to think you were." "Will you really start a self-defense club?" River asked hopefully. Faith looked at the group of students, saw the hope in their eyes, the beginning of strength in their stances. "First meeting is Monday after school. Jim B. Spread the word everyone's welcome except Bullies." "What about your hair?" Madison asked. "Are you going to fix it?" Faith ran her hand through the jagged strands. "No, I'm keeping it like this for now. Let it be a reminder that they tried to humiliate me and failed, that what they meant for harm became my strength." Brooklyn Patterson pushed through the crowd, holding something glittery. We made this for you, during third period." It was a crown, crafted from aluminum foil and decorated with markers. Crudely made but achingly sincere, written across the front in bold letters, "Warrior Queen." "You guys," Faith's voice caught. "Put it on," someone shouted, with shaking hands. Faith placed the makeshift crown on her butchered hair. The crowd erupted in cheers that echoed across the parking lot. Michael snapped a photo. "That's going on the fridge." "Uncle Mike," Faith protested, but she was smiling. As they drove away, Faith watched the school shrink in the rear window. Something fundamental had shifted in Westfield High's hallways. The reign of the untouchable bullies was ending, one consequence at a time, but in the side mirror. She caught a glimpse of Deacon Crawford watching from a second-floor window, his expression promising this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Monday morning arrived with storm clouds that matched the tension crackling through Westfield High's hallways. Faith Mackenzie walked through the front doors at 7:45 a.m., her butchered blonde hair now styled into an edgy pixie cut that somehow made her look more dangerous, not less. The aluminum foil crown was gone, but the warrior remained. "Faith!" Jasmine Rodriguez rushed up, clutching a folder. 37 people signed up for Self-Defense Club. 37, we had to move to the main gym. Faith smiled, adjusting her backpack. "Good. We'll need the space." What she didn't tell Jasmine was that she'd spent the weekend with her grandfather, drilling advanced techniques until her muscles screamed. She had a feeling Deacon Crawford wasn't done, and when he made his move, she'd be ready. The hallways buzzed with different energy now. Students who'd previously scurried past with downcast eyes walked taller, made eye contact, spoke up. The shift was subtle, but significant prey, becoming protectors. "Did you see?" Harper Wells joined them, holding up her phone. "Someone spray-painted 'Bullies Beware' on Deacon's parking spot. Maintenance is trying to remove it. But it's that industrial paint. Gonna take days." Faith frowned. "That's not helpful. We're trying to stop bullying, not become bullies ourselves." "But after what he did to you, we fight back with dignity," Faith interrupted. "Otherwise, we're just perpetuating the cycle." Second period brought an unexpected visitor. Faith was deep in calculus when Principal Morrison himself appeared at the door, not Vice Principal Garrett, but the big boss who usually only emerged for graduations and disasters. "Miss Mackenzie, a word." The walk to his office felt different than Friday's march to Garrett's. Students in the hallway nodded respectfully, some even applauding softly. News of her documentation, the confrontation with Mitchell Crawford, had spread like wildfire. Principal Morrison's office was 3 times the size of Garrett's, all dark wood and leather-bound books. He gestured to a chair, then surprised her by sitting in the adjacent seat rather than behind his desk. "I owe you an apology." He began without preamble. "I've been principal here for 12 years, and I let a culture of fear take root under my watch. Your courage in documenting everything, standing up to the Crawfords, it's shown me how badly I've failed our students." Faith studied him carefully. Richard Morrison was in his 50s, gray-haired, with the tired eyes of someone who'd compromised too many times. But there was something else there now. Determination, maybe even hope. "What matters is what happens next," she said carefully. "Agreed, which is why I'm implementing your suggestions immediately. Zero tolerance for bullying, with actual teeth, anonymous reporting system, mandatory sensitivity training for all staff, and—" he paused. "I'm promoting you." "I'm sorry. Student Safety Liaison. It's a new position. You'll work directly with administration to ensure no complaint gets buried again. Comes with a small stipend and a lot of responsibility." "Interested?" Faith blinked. "I'm 16. And you've done more to protect students than most adults. Age doesn't determine capability, Miss Mackenzie. You've proven that definitively." Before she could respond, the intercom crackled. "Principal Morrison, we have a situation in the cafeteria. Security requested immediately." Morrison was already moving. "Walk with me, Miss Mackenzie, if you're going to take this position. Might as well start now." They rushed through hallways filled with students all heading the same direction. The cafeteria doors were propped open, revealing a scene that made Faith's blood run cold. Deacon Crawford stood on a lunch table, holding court before a crowd of students. His 2-day suspension had ended that morning, and he'd returned with vengeance in his eyes. But it wasn't his presence that concerned Faith. It was the hunting knife glinting in his hand. "You all think you're safe now," Deacon shouted, gesturing wildly with the blade. "Think one little girl with lucky moves changes anything. My family owns this town. We own the police, the judges, everyone who matters." Security guards hovered at the edges, clearly unsure how to handle an armed student whose father could end their careers. Morrison started forward, but Faith caught his arm. "He's not stable," she whispered. "That's not bravado. Look at his eyes. He's desperate. Cornered animals are the most dangerous." "Then what do you suggest?" Faith's mind raced through options. "Clear the room slowly. Don't make him feel trapped. And let me try talking to him." "Absolutely not. He has a weapon. And I have training. More importantly, I'm who he really wants." Faith met Morrison's eyes. "Trust me." Morrison hesitated, then nodded. He began quietly directing staff to evacuate students through side exits. Faith stepped forward, hands visible and empty. "Hello, Deacon." He spun toward her, knife extended. This is all your fault. My dad's cutting me off. Said I'm an embarrassment. Yale rejected my early admission. My life is ruined because you couldn't just take a joke." "Cutting my hair wasn't a joke," Faith said calmly, continuing to approach. "It was assault. Just like pulling that knife is a felony. But you still have choices here." "Choices?" He laughed bitterly. "What choices? Everyone's against me now. Even Bryce and Trent won't return my calls. You turned the whole school against me." "No, Deacon. You did that yourself." Faith was 10 feet away now, close enough to see the tremor in his hand. "Every cruel word, every shove, every humiliation you built this reputation brick by brick. I just held up a mirror." "Shut up." He slashed the air with the knife. "You think you're so smart, documenting everything, playing detective. But you're just a nobody. Your parents are dead. You don't belong here. You don't belong anywhere." The words should have stung, but Faith had heard worse from him. What caught her attention was the shift in his stance. He was preparing to lunge. Time slowed. Deacon charged, knife aimed at her center mass, but Faith had been reading his telegraphs since he started talking. She pivoted left, guided his knife hand past her body, and used his momentum to execute a textbook Aikido throw. He hit the cafeteria floor hard, knife skittering away across linoleum. Before he could recover, Faith had him in an armbar that would snap bone if he struggled. "Stay down," she commanded, voice carrying absolute authority. But Deacon Crawford had never learned when to quit with his free hand. He pulled a second blade smaller, concealed, desperate. He twisted, trying to slash at her legs. Faith released the armbar and rolled backward, coming up in a crouch. Around them, remaining students gasped, and security finally moved. But Faith held up a hand. "No, he needs to learn this lesson himself." Deacon scrambled to his feet, breathing hard, holding the small knife like a lifeline. "I'll kill you. I swear I'll kill you." "No," Faith said simply. "You won't." He charged again, wild and sloppy. This time, Faith didn't just defend, she demonstrated exactly why her grandfather had trained her so thoroughly. Duck under the slash. Palm strike to the solar plexus. Sweep the leg. Control the weapon hand. Pressure point behind the jaw. In 3 seconds. Deacon was unconscious on the cafeteria floor, both knives safely away from his limp hands. The silence was deafening. Then someone started clapping. Slowly, steadily, until the entire cafeteria erupted in applause that shook the windows. Faith knelt beside Deacon's unconscious form, checking his pulse. Satisfied, he was merely stunned. She looked up at Principal Morrison. "He needs psychiatric help. Real help, not lawyers." Morrison nodded, already on his phone with police. Real police, not Crawford-owned security. "Consider that student safety liaison position officially yours." As paramedics arrived to treat Deacon, Faith noticed movement in the crowd. Mitchell Crawford pushed through, face purple with rage, but stopped short when he saw his son unconscious on the floor. "What did you do?" he roared at Faith. "I saved his life," she replied quietly. "He pulled 2 knives in a room full of witnesses. If I hadn't stopped him, security would have. With lethal force, most likely. Your son is alive because I chose restraint." Mitchell's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Around him, students held up phones, recording everything. The era of Crawford intimidation was officially over. "He needs help," Faith continued. "Not lawyers or bribes or cover-ups. Actual psychological help. That's not weakness, Mr. Crawford. That's what real strength looks like, admitting when you need assistance." The fight went out of Mitchell Crawford like air from a punctured balloon. He looked at his son. Really looked. Perhaps for the first time. I don't know how." "Start by listening," Faith suggested. "To him, to the doctors, to the people he hurt. Start there." That afternoon, despite everything, 37 students showed up for self-defense club. Faith stood before them in the gym, still wearing her school clothes, hair still jagged but styled with purpose. "Before we begin," she announced, "let's be clear about something. What I teach you isn't about violence. It's about confidence. It's about knowing you can protect yourself, so you don't walk in fear. It's about becoming someone predators avoid because you're too much trouble." "Questions?" River Martinez raised a hand. "Will you teach us that throw you used on Deacon?" "Eventually. First, we learn to fall safely. Can't practice throws if you're afraid of hitting the ground." Faith smiled. "My grandfather made me practice falls for 3 months before teaching me anything else. I hated it then. It saved my life today." For the next hour, Faith led them through basics, stance work, breathing, how to make a proper fist. She watched transformation happen in real-time, slouched shoulders straightening, nervous giggles becoming determined focus. "Partner up," she instructed. "We're going to practice saying no. Just that. Strong voice, strong stance, make eye contact." And it seemed simple. But Faith watched students struggle with even this basic assertion. Years of conditioning to be quiet, compliant. Invisible didn't break easily. "I can't," Jasmine whispered to her partner. "It feels rude." Faith moved to her side. "Protecting yourself is never rude. Your safety matters more than someone else's comfort." Again. "No." Jasmine's voice barely carried. "Like, you mean it." "No." Stronger this time. "Like your life depends on it." "No!" Jasmine shouted, and the power in her voice surprised everyone, including herself. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. "I did it. I actually did it." "You did," Faith confirmed. "And that's just the beginning." As class ended, Harper approached. "Faith, there's something you should know. After what happened today, more students are coming forward. Brooklyn Patterson filed a report about Deacon cornering her last month. 3 other girls are talking to the counselors. Your documentation gave them courage." Faith nodded, unsurprised. "Courage is contagious. Once one person stands up, others remember they can too." "What about you?" Harper asked. "This has to be traumatic. He came at you with knives." For the first time all day, Faith let her guard down slightly. "I'm okay. My grandfather always said the hardest battles aren't physical. They're the ones where you have to choose between easy wrong and difficult right. Today was physically simple. The hard part was everything leading up to it." That evening, Faith sat in her grandfather's dojo, the one place that truly felt like home. William Chen, no blood relation to Michael, but brothers in every way that mattered, moved through forms with the grace of someone who'd been practicing for 70 years. "You did well today," he said without breaking rhythm. "Minimal force, maximum effect. No permanent damage despite provocation." He wanted me to hurt him, Faith realized. Wanted to be the victim instead of the aggressor. "And you denied him that narrative." Her grandfather completed his form, turned to face her. "But this isn't over. Men like Mitchell Crawford don't change overnight. The system that protected them doesn't crumble from one incident." "I know," Faith stretched, muscles still tight from the day's adrenaline. "But something shifted today. The whole school felt it. Fear turned to hope. Hope is powerful, also dangerous. People with hope fight back." He smiled, the expression transforming his weathered face. "I'm proud of you, granddaughter. Your parents would be too." They trained together until the sun set, grandfather and granddaughter moving in perfect synchronization. Outside, Faith's phone buzzed with message after message. Students asking about next week's class, teachers offering support, even a few apologies from kids who'd stood by while bullying happened. Change was coming to Westfield High, one lesson at a time. 3 weeks later, Faith stood before the school board, delivering her first report as student safety liaison. The room was packed students, parents, media. The Crawford family notably absent. "Since implementing our new policies," she read from prepared notes, "bullying incidents have decreased by 78%. Reporting has increased by 300%. We've established peer mediation programs, expanded counseling services, and our self-defense club now has a waiting list." Board member Blackwood raised a hand. "Miss Mackenzie, some parents are concerned about teaching violence in schools." "We don't teach violence," Faith interrupted firmly. "We teach confidence. We teach boundary setting. We teach de-escalation. Ask any of the 112 students now enrolled which techniques they use most. They'll all say the same thing, their voice. Learning to say no, learning they deserve respect. Physical techniques are last resort only." "And a Deacon Crawford?" another member asked. Faith's expression softened slightly. "Receiving treatment at a residential facility. His father visits weekly. It's progress." What she didn't mention were the letters. Deacon had written twice, rambling apologies mixed with genuine insight about his behavior. She hadn't responded yet. Forgiveness was a process, not an event. After the meeting, Faith found herself surrounded by familiar faces, her self-defense students, her documentary witnesses, her quiet revolution. "Next week we're starting ground defense," she announced. "Everyone needs a yoga mat and water bottle, no exceptions." "Will you teach us the spinning kick eventually?" someone called out. Faith laughed. "Master that first fall correctly. Then we'll talk." As the crowd dispersed, Madison Torres lingered. "I never thanked you properly, for remembering my name in that office, for seeing us when everyone else looked away." "Oh, you were never invisible." Faith repeated what she'd said weeks ago. "None of you were." "We are now," Madison said, "but in a different way. We're invisible, like you were by choice, not force, quiet, but not weak." Faith smiled. "Exactly." That night, Faith stood in her bathroom, studying her reflection. The butchered hair had grown out slightly, professional styling making it look intentional rather than violent. She could grow it long again, return to the ponytail that had been her trademark. But she wouldn't. Let it stay short. A reminder that sometimes losing something led to finding yourself. Her phone rang. Uncle Mike, checking in as he did every evening since the knife incident. "I'm fine," she assured him. "Better than fine. We had 112 students at Self-Defense Club today. Had to split into 3 sections." "You're building an army," he teased. "I'm building a community," she corrected. "One where everyone feels safe. Where quiet doesn't mean target. Where different doesn't mean less than." "Your parents would be so proud," Mike said softly. "Teaching others to stand up for themselves and each other. That's the legacy they want." After they hung up, Faith returned to her homework. AP chemistry equations covered her desk, but her mind wandered to next week's lesson plan. Ground defense was crucial. Most real fights ended up there. But more importantly, learning to get back up after being knocked down was a metaphor everyone needed. A text interrupted her thoughts. Unknown number. "This is Deacon's therapist at Riverside. He's asked if you'd consider a supervised video call. No pressure. But he says he needs to apologize properly. Part of his treatment involves making amends." Faith stared at the message for a long moment. Then she typed back, "Not yet, maybe someday. Tell him to focus on healing first." It wasn't forgiveness, but it wasn't revenge either. It was something harder, allowing space for redemption while maintaining boundaries. Her grandfather's words echoed as she drifted toward sleep. True strength isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you can build. Faith Mackenzie was building something beautiful at Westfield High. One student, one lesson, one act of courage at a time. And this was only the beginning. As she closed her chemistry textbook, Faith noticed the moon through her window, full and bright, just like that night at the festival. But now it didn't remind her of fear. It reminded her of possibility. Tomorrow, she'd teach another class. Tomorrow, more students would find their strength. Tomorrow, the ripples of change would spread further. Faith smiled, finally understanding what her grandfather meant. Every warrior's greatest victory wasn't in the battles they won, but in the warriors they inspired to rise.